Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Valeria Lipovetsky, and you are listening to Not Alone. Today, I have a really interesting episode with Bibi Brzozka. She is a conscious sexuality coach, and I actually met her on a retreat in Ibiza. We went to the Intelligent Change retreat, which was amazing. Went there with Gary, and if you watched our last episode where we were talking about the feather tickling, Bibi was the educator in that workshop, and I have to say I was mesmerized by her energy, by how she moved, and the knowledge that she shared. Gary, not so much, because I think he was too intimidated, and honestly, I could have done a better job getting him into the space, but I didn't know what to expect, so there was a lot of everything. Bibi fascinated me with the information that she shared, and I really wanted to sit down and talk to her about all things sexuality, sensuality, about the differences between them, what is love, what is pleasure, what is desire, their role in our lives, and exploring the world of self-pleasure as a means to self-discovery. There's a lot, but before we get into the conversation, I would appreciate it if you could leave a review and rating for Not Alone on Apple Podcast or Spotify. It really helps out the show, and I love reading your thoughts and feedback. I read each one of them. I really care. If you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for your support, and let's dive in. Bibi, I'm so happy you're here.
I am also excited since we met last year and this was in the making and finally it's happening.
Something I've been learning as a 33-year-old woman is the way how sexual energy is such a huge part of the feminine power, which I feel like I've never realized just the magnitude of its effect. And, you know, it's such a combination of a free mind and an open heart and just truly like the essence of being a woman. You are a conscious sexuality coach. Tell me how that even came about, because before I met you, I've never heard of that occupation.
Yeah, definitely it's something new and I'm so happy because finally there's more and more openness to talk about conscious intimacy and there's more and more teachers, but indeed this is relatively new, I would say, becoming popular in the last few years. I have not always been really conscious in the bedroom. It was quite the opposite. Similar to you, I come from a communism country, which is Poland. And I was actually for 15 years in a corporate world because when I was deciding what I want to do with my life, I wanted to have things that my parents didn't have access to, which was money and ability to travel. So I chose finance and banking. And I went deep into it.
In Poland.
And an important chapter was definitely New York, because when I was younger, I was looking at the Sex and the City series, and I was really looking up to this women. I wanted to be this independent, free woman, as you know, Carrie or Samantha. And finally, I was living this life. The office was on Times Square, and I was going to all the events and the brunches and talking about men and and literally living that life. But the reality is I was not fulfilled. I was never passionate about finance or banking. I was not freely expressed in the corporate world. I always was trying to fit into wearing the right thing, saying the right thing. And, you know, corporate life is not really free and uninhibited and doesn't really allow you for your full expression, especially as a woman. It's a very masculine way of doing things. It's a very masculine way of looking at everything, really. So it kind of started to be really, really challenging. And I noticed that I was swinging like a pendulum from one extreme to the other. On one hand, I was working really hard and being in the corporate cubicle. And then to make up for that lack of passion, I would go out and play hard. And a lot of it was this promiscuous sexuality that I was, kind of inspired by looking at Sex and the City. So a lot of encounters that were not meaningful, that were not really about the connection, that were mainly about picking someone up and kind of, again, a very masculine way looking at it. And they were fast, and they were a lot about performing, and they were a lot about trying to look and behave a certain way. And it wasn't really me. It wasn't nourishing. It wasn't even pleasurable often. And it wasn't often orgasmic neither. And it was not till the years later that none of those distractions, like partying, traveling, casual encounters, they all stopped working. They weren't filling up the void anymore. And that's when I paused for the first time and asked myself, what the hell am I doing with my life? Where am I going? What's my purpose? What's my vision? It was such an overwhelming question back then that it all got me into kind of a mild version of a midlife crisis.
How old were you?
I was a little over 30. And this was such a beautiful portal, because really my world collapsed as it was, and it finally forced me to quit my corporate golden cage and really dive deeper into what am I truly passionate about? What do I want to do with my life? And this took me to the journey of self-exploration, and kind of did all the things from going to India to an Osho ashram, and then doing Vipassana meditation and medicinal plant ceremonies and landmark type of courses. The list is long. But what was one of the most impactful experiences was actually what I refer to as my sexual awakening. And this is where, on a workshop where everyone was fully clothed, when we were all lying on our yoga mats and doing certain breathing technique, but really energy work, I felt this surge of energy, and it just took over, and I was able to completely surrender, and I lost track of time, and I entered into that space of no ego, no time, no space, kind of blissed out, connected with the divine, however you want to call it. And back then I didn't really know what happened exactly, but the teacher told me that that was an energy full body orgasm.
Wow.
And what was so powerful about it, that once that energy got activated, it remained this way. And a few days later, I had a little intimate encounter with one of the gentlemen that was also present in this workshop, and actually had a very similar experience. And again, fully clothed, we started kissing, and the energy started moving. And we literally experienced, I think it was like 5 hours of full body energy orgasms, and this orgasmic, beautiful, connecting deep states. And we were both in awe. And from that moment on, I was like, I want to know what is actually happening. How can I not only bring more of these experiences to myself, but also to others? This is so beautiful. This is so powerful. And everything started to shift, not just in the bedroom, but outside the bedroom. And something that you actually mentioned as we started the podcast, I became more alive. I became more confident. I became more radiant and more unapologetic, and started to have all these creative ideas. I started to even dress differently. I started to be interested in different things. All of a sudden, I was like, I want to make a positive impact in this world. I want to do things that really matter. I want to be of service. I, shortly after, stopped drinking alcohol altogether, lost interest in partying that much, and kind of all of that shallow thrills stopped being really of my interest, really. And therefore I like to use the word awakening, which sometimes may be a little bit overused, but that really felt like a sexual awakening. And from that moment on, my life completely changed my trajectory. And I was so amazed by this that I couldn't stop talking about it, Valeria. Everywhere I would go, is it every lunch, every dinner, every meetup with the girlfriends, I would tell them all about full body orgasms and what was happening. And people wanted to know more. And just to finish this part of the story, a lot of women started to come back to me, telling me that just after those few minutes of a conversation, things started to shift for them. I even had few women say that they think they experienced full body orgasm as well. And they feel like energy started moving. I was like, wow, just from talking about it and making people aware this is possible and this exists, we can already plant seeds with that.
Guys, I cannot wait to tell you about one of today's sponsors, Magic Spoon. I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite childhood memories is going through the cereal aisle with my mother and getting shut down every time I would bring out a box. Actually, no, that's not true because we didn't know any better. She just let me eat a lot of garbage, and that was actually a great memory for me. But thankfully, we have some alternatives today that can still satisfy the nostalgic aspect of the childhood. And Magic Spoon does exactly that with the amazing flavor they bring. And it is high protein and less sugar. Magic Spoon brings me back to exactly that feeling with their amazing flavors, but also with their high protein and low sugar. So that satisfied the adult in me. Every serving of Magic Spoon has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about eating cereal. They also have 10 flavors that all taste just like the cereal you loved as a kid. Their most popular are fruity, cocoa, frosted, and peanut butter, but there are so many more like blueberry muffin, cinnamon roll, birthday cake, honey nut, and maple waffle. I love that Magic Spoon makes it so easy for me to eat more protein when I'm too busy or tired to cook. I love my Magic Spoon in the morning, or actually as a midday pick-me-up snack. I bring it to the office because if I leave it at home, I can assure you it will be gone by the time I come home. So a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. Get $5 off your next order of delicious cereal at magicspoon.com/notalone. Or look for Magic Spoon in your nearest grocery aisle. That's magicspoon.com/notalone for $5 off. Magic Spoon, hold on to the dream. I want to mention, to your point, we met on a retreat last year in Ibiza, and I have to say I had a similar experience where I attended a few of your workshops, and just to bring awareness to the aspect of self-pleasure, of sexuality, of that power within me already started shifting certain things. And that's why I wanted to talk to you more, because I want to open it up. I want people to look at it as much larger than just, having great sex or performing better or,
or
making
having
it
more
better.
pleasure.
Exactly. It's truly feels like a bigger awakening, to your point. And I wonder, from your story, do you think you would have achieve that or reach that awakening if you were still in the environment that you were in? Because not a lot of us are able to just be like, okay, that's it, dropping my banking career and I'm going to search for something.
I think for everyone is such an individual journey, and for each person the entry point will be different. And for some people it might be a yoga class or a first meditation. For some people, for a lot of people, it might be a plant ceremony. For other people it might be a sound healing session, or for some people it might be even a death of a close person. Or I think there are many different avenues that this can happen, that kind of shift of perception. Now, that surge of energy sexuality is definitely a powerful portal for that. But there are also other ways, like, for example, even Kundalini yoga. Nowadays, there is also a very popular modality called Kundalini activation process, CAP. So there are different ways to access the states, but I feel like sexuality is a very powerful one. I definitely wouldn't get there if I would completely stay in the corporate world, because there was no time, no space, and I didn't have enough contact with these modalities. But that was also many, many years ago. Today, things have changed.
Yeah.
But
And the essence is really learning how to create enough space to connect to your body, right? And I think that's where the busy lifestyle and the focusing on the masculine is, holding us back in a way.
Yeah, it definitely is not allowing us for our full expression. Yeah.
When we talk about sexuality, lust, pleasure, desire, to me, they're all bucketed under the same thing. But are they the same thing? Would you say lust, desire, pleasure?
No, they are definitely not the same thing. And I actually want to take it even a step back. I think there's a lot of confusion in our society because we put emotional connection, physical connection, spiritual connection, or intimacy, sensuality, sexuality, commitment, and love all in the one basket. Okay, those things can absolutely coexist together, but often they don't. And we have to make sure that we really nurture and invite all of them. So the same with desire. First, there is a desire, then we will bring more pleasure. That pleasure then will turn into lust. So there are definitely different things. And there is very little awareness around this in our everyday life.
I want you to break it down for me even further. How would you define desire?
So I think, first of all, there can be a different version of desire, right? It can be a desire that is sexual, but desire can be non-sexual. So there's something that we really want, that we really crave. There is a certain yearning for something, right? So in sexuality, there will be a yearning for connection, a yearning for pleasure, a yearning for intimacy.
I love that definition. What about lust?
Lust is lust is where we bring much more pleasure, and where we are in higher state of arousal. So I would like to say, to make it a little bit more vivid, or to make it a little bit easier for people to understand, I like to introduce what I call a pleasure scale. So you want to start observing how aroused you are from 1 to 10. Okay, 1, you're not aroused at all. 10, you're in an orgasmic state. So lust, I would say, is somewhere around an 8 or a 9, where the pleasure is really intense and it almost takes you over.
Yeah. And all of them are under pleasure, or would you define pleasure as a third kind of thing?
Pleasure is a feeling, it's a sensation in the body. So again, for me, it's a little bit different. And pleasure will be a portal to more arousal and then lust.
I'm so curious about the connection of self-discovery to one's sexuality. Because again, just like everyone else, to me, sexuality or or self-erotic energy, you just taught me that term, which I love. It feels like it's like a small part of a bigger picture. Where now I'm starting to understand that it's actually a big part of that picture and kind of propels you forward in your self-discovery journey.
So I think let's start with that. Let's start with the fact that we all know we live a very masculine lifestyle, right? It is mostly logic, mind, result, performance, productivity driven, right? These are all more masculine qualities. And this is what is more valued. This is what is almost like required often from us to be successful. And we kind of, in this lifestyle, we're living up here and we're not really connected so much with our emotions. We're not really connected so much with sensations, with the body. And this requires us to slow down. This requires for us to really take time to start feeling and open up to feel more. And this also invites women to really tap more into their bodies, into their pleasure, into discovering their sexual energy. And for me, our power center is not really here. Our power center is here, right? Our power center is our womb, our erotic energy. And we have been cut out from this from thousands of years. So I am on a mission for women to reclaim their pleasure, because this is also one of the ways that they can really start tapping into that erotic energy, into creativity, into feeling more radiant from the inside, into feeling more empowered, into feeling more confident, into speaking their truth, etc., etc. And a big part of that process is a process of discovering your body and a process of conscious self-pleasure, which there is so much conditioning around.
Well,
right?
I was even about to say, like, to me, the word pleasure feels indulgent, and indulgent feels like negative, like I need to earn it.
My God, this is so beautiful that you share this, because this was my relationship with pleasure for so many years. Pleasure is a waste of time. Pleasure is something less of than productivity. Pleasure is sinful. Maybe I actually don't even deserve it. What about the other people that are, suffering in this world? Who am I to experience more pleasure? I should be focused on other more serious things. There are all these stories that we carry on, right?
Yeah.
And really, pleasure is your birthright, first of all. Pleasure can be healing. Pleasure can be soothing. Pleasure is such a powerful tool to regulate your nervous system. Pleasure can be a form of self-love. Pleasure can be a tool used to manifestation. Pleasure is also a beautiful way to explore self-love. There are so many benefits of conscious self-pleasure practice that I can go on and on here.
Yeah. I guess for me, like, how do we reframe this? Like, how do we redefine this concept for us women?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, let's start with the name, because when we use the word masturbation, I think immediately there's a certain resistance or discomfort that comes up. So I much rather use the word conscious self-pleasure or even self-love. I would love to invite women to think of it as a self-love ritual, as a self-love practice, where you are really getting to know your body, where you're gifting yourself with a time for you, where you are exploring different type of touch, and you yourself can gift yourself with a healing touch, with a soothing touch, with a grounding touch, with a sensual touch, also with an erotic touch. It's a way of becoming more comfortable with our body, with our sexuality. It's a way of relaxing and, again, soothing our nervous system. So if you look at this in this way, rather than some kind of a short-lived, goal-oriented and friction-oriented mechanical act, then you're already going to start approaching it in a different way, right? And then I like to say, I invite women to make it into a ritual. So what are some of the things, what are some of the rituals that you actually have and that you cultivate for yourself, right? What are some of the elements of the rituals? There is an element of an intention. So you can have a different intention in that self-pleasure practice. Maybe the intention is healing your relationship to pleasure. Maybe the intention is to bring more sensitivity and change a relationship with your body, especially, let's say, if you have body image issues, right? Changing that narrative, or maybe reclaiming your pleasure, or maybe exploring new pleasure pathways. So what is the intention? Then how are you going to give it the space and time that it really deserves? So really scheduling some time, because otherwise it's not going to happen. It's not a 2-minute pleasure ritual. It's a longer practice, because we want to have time to really relax and again calm our nervous system, slow down our monkey mind, so we can really drop from the head into the body. Then we want to incorporate some of the elements like meditation, breathing, movement, all the things that will again help us to relax and help us to come in a closer relationship with our body. And then it's not about getting to any specific goal. If you are going to experience an orgasm at the end, great, beautiful. But that's, again, not the main thing you're going to be chasing and grasping. We want to just explore. We want to feel the sensations from moment to moment. We want to see how different type of touch feels. So many women never really touch their breasts in a loving way. So many women never put a finger inside of themselves and don't even understand anatomy. So what a better way to do this than really through a conscious self-pleasure, self-love ritual.
It feels, just hearing it, it feels very empowering. It feels like you are so much more aware of your body, how it works, but also what to ask from a partner, because you know what you like.
So I'm going to give this example, and I give this example quite often because I feel it really resonates with people. So when you're intimate with your partner, I like to compare it to a duo, to a concert of two musicians. And let's say we're going to say two guitar players, right? In order for this duo, for this concert to be really flawless and beautiful to the ear, everyone hopefully practiced how to play that guitar before the concert. What we do in our society, we come together with a partner and we never practice playing our own instrument. We never practiced playing our own guitar, yet we are expecting the concert to be fabulous. So if you want to have a beautiful, intimate experience with your partner, please play your own instrument first. Learn.
Practice.
But also learn what type of touch brings you most pleasure, right? For some people, it will be feather-like touch, but for some people, it will be more firm touch. Where is your body more sensitive? For some, it will be maybe an ear or a neck. For someone else, it will be breast stimulation. For someone else, it will be different area of your body. What is it that you like? Help your partner and make them win. Right? And how are you going to do this? Not through expecting that they're going to miraculously, telepathically figure out everything you like, because everyone likes something else. And we also, for us women, everything changes throughout our menstruation cycle. So when you're PMSing, you might want to have more of a tender, loving touch, while when you're ovulating, maybe a bit more of a firm touch. So even within the same person, things will change and shift. So communicating and guiding our partners will just make things so much more pleasurable.
This makes me think on the fact that right now it feels like we're in the most kind of sexual liberation type of time, right? There's conversation around it. You can get content about it. You can learn some more, but it's still the concept of of this, like people still feel disconnected and removed in the relationship with themselves and in the relationship with other. When you were learning about this world of self-pleasure, where do you feel like we got disconnected from it?
Yeah, I would say we got disconnected from this from a very early age in the childhood. Like I grew up in Catholic country, Poland. Self-pleasure is definitely not something you are invited to explore. From the very early age, you feel like you're doing something wrong and you are hiding and you're doing it as quickly as possible. I also never had any conversation about it, neither with my parents. Nothing was introduced to us at school, right? Most kids, when parents see that they are self-pleasuring or playing with their genitals, will be told to stop immediately, right? So it starts really, really early on. Cultural conditioning, religious upbringing, conservative parents. And then I always like to say, what happens when we suppress something that is so natural and so vital for our well-being, which is sexuality? It's gonna come out on the opposite end as perverse, right? So here it is suppressed, and then on the opposite end it is perverse. So the only thing we get access to really also quite early on is pornography, right?
Yes.
And nowadays it's easier than ever before. So there is not a healthy view on this, right? It is either wrong or it is perverse. So since the early age, we're getting these confused messages, right? That it's something that is either wrong or shameful or that we might get punished for doing, right? So that's where it starts.
Where do you feel, and I don't know if you spoke about it before, but thinking about myself who raising 3 men, how do you advise people to go about it, talk about sexuality, make sure that the space around it doesn't feel like this scary, dirty thing?
Yeah, and this is such an important topic. So many of my clients, so many women share with me that they were so confused around messaging they should be presenting to their kids around sexuality, because clearly at school there isn't much. The education at school is very basic, and either you are going to teach your kids or they are going to learn from pornography. So let's be honest about it. I think the average age of a child exposed to that is 11 years old.
Wow.
So
That's very
pretty
young.
early on. And there's few things you can do. First of all, I would say the following, that kids, especially at a younger age, they are picking up more, not from the things you're going to tell them, but really from your actions and your behavior. So how intimate are you and your husband in front of your kids? Do you touch yourself lovingly? Is there a hug? Is there a kiss? Do you hold each other's hands? So many clients shared with me, well, I actually never even saw my parents kiss, or I never saw my parents just be physically close to each other, right? So just being comfortable with that expression of love through touch, right? Through a kiss. So they can see from the very young age. And secondly, when they grow a little bit older, I would have a conversation about what is consent, how to ask for permission, sexuality is a beautiful act where you want to honor your partner, where you want to go slow, and just starting to have basic conversations. And I know that they can be very challenging, but they're absolutely possible. The only thing that I tell parents is that you want to first embody that conscious intimacy yourself. Because if you are not practicing it and you just read it from a book and you're trying to repeat it to your kids, they're not going to buy into it.
Right.
So to me, the best way to do this is really start practicing, discovering, exploring yourself, and pass it to your kids through your own words, through your own expression of that, because only then it will be authentic and it can really land.
I want to take it back to pornography. Do you feel like it is absolutely a no, or can there be a medium, or letting it enhance our understanding of sexuality or pleasure?
Yeah. So there's few angles we can look at this from. First of all, there's research showing that there are changes in the brain that happen when we look at it repetitively, and there are new neuropaths that are created in the brain, for in different type of arousal at an expense of kind of, we can call it natural pathways for arousal. There are dopamine spikes that are enforced by the fact that there is unlimited novelty, and we can always fast forward and have something new and new and new. And those spikes in the dopamine are then followed by subsequential drops below the baseline. And what also happens is that just a real life partner doesn't seem to be that exciting. Real love, slower love making is not as exciting, not as rewarding for the brain as those things that we see on the screen. So it absolutely has consequences. Apart from there is many more. I'm going to just leave it with that. So I want people to be aware of that. It can even become addictive. Okay. And I also have so many clients who come to me and they have been addicted to pleasuring, watching it for years. They met a partner they are now in love with, and nothing is happening. Okay. So it really has its consequences. Apart from that, it is really an unethical business. So aside from that, which really is one of the number one reasons for human trafficking and child abuse. So you want to have that in mind as well. Now, if you are watching anything, then please be mindful of what you are watching. Nowadays, there is more and more female erotica, which is definitely a more respectful, more sensual, kind of higher frequency content that I would say definitely is better than a lot of aggressive and simply also misleading content. One thing that I would like to also add is that pornography is not made to educate, it is made to entertain. So there's a lot of action, there's a lot of friction, people are pretending and performing, and then we tend to think that that is how things work in real life, but they don't. So there's a lot of unhealthy expectations, unhealthy habits that we pick up from that.
Which I feel like happens to adults as well, right? Like it sounds like this is for teenagers. They're just getting introduced to the world, but I feel like a lot of adults can get lost in that world as well.
Absolutely. This is not just teenagers. This is everyone. And I think the number of people that are watching it is skyrocketing, and the numbers are higher than ever. And there is even an interesting study that shows that from the moment that iPhone was introduced, sexual activity among young men has dropped significantly.
Wow.
So they just preferred, they start to prioritize or prefer or choose more often online content rather than interactions in real life and physical intimacy. So I would say no, and if you want to watch something, then please be mindful of what you choose. Does it leave you inspired? Does it leave you nourished? And again, more of a female type of erotica.
Right, like any content that you consume. You mentioned this one phrase before, which made me think about this conversation we just had: fast food approach to self-pleasure. Explain to me what that means.
So yes, I love that comparison, and few teachers use this comparison of fast food versus gourmet or healthy or farm to table nourishing meal, right? Because essentially it's kind of the same thing. Fast food is fast. Fast food doesn't leave us really nourished. Fast food doesn't provide all the vitamins and minerals and all the things that will leave us healthy, alive, and energized for a longer time. It just makes us kind of, feeling full for the moment, right? In the moment.
You get your instant gratification.
You get your
and then
instant
it
gratification.
goes downhill from there.
Exactly. So the same way with fast food approach to pleasure. It's fast, it's not really intentional, often it's mechanical, it's repetitive, it's very goal oriented, and it doesn't really leave you nourished, it doesn't leave you energized. It doesn't leave you inspired. Often there will be just a lot of friction, a quick kind of fix, a short climatic type of an orgasm followed by an energy release, contraction, and a nap.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can refer to it as a sneeze and snooze type of an experience. While if you invite a self-pleasure practice that is conscious, that is intentional, that is a little bit slower, that can be really, really nourishing, and that can actually be energizing and inspiring, right? The same way as that farm to table meal, right? It's gonna take longer. You're gonna spend more time in the restaurant. You're gonna slow down the way you eat. You're gonna savor really every little piece of it and be fully present with all the tastes and the smells. And you're gonna leave and be energized for hours after. Same way with the self-pleasure, right? If you go a little bit slower, if you bring breath, if you are present with all the sensations, if you actually take time to relax and move the pleasure all over your body, not just focus on the genitals, if you invite different type of orgasmic experiences that are more full body, that are more energizing, this is going to be so much more nourishing, not only for your body, but really for your soul. This is how I like to describe it.
I love that. To me, I feel like, again, just knowing, connecting it to the fast food, because we know the implication of fast food on our bodies, creates a different reframe around it. You mentioned a full body orgasm. What does that even mean?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people ask, right? And it's kind of a new term, but it's becoming more and more popular. So I'm
Okay, that's
so
good.
happy.
We're going in the right direction.
Yeah, that people are opening up to different possibilities. So normally what we experience, we refer to it often as a peak type of orgasm, where the pleasure is concentrated and almost kind of pushed to the genital area. There is, again, a lot of friction, a lot of action. We usually tense, so there can be an explosion of pleasure in the form of a climax, and then it's followed up by a contraction. This type of orgasm usually lasts about 5, maybe to 10 seconds. And again, there is going to be an energy drop after that. There are other types of experiences. So what do we have in between the peaks? We have a valley. Okay, so it is going to be exactly the opposite experience. So we are not focusing so much on the doing and the friction. We are actually relaxing more into it. Okay, there's less friction, there is more focus on subtle sensations. Instead of tensing, we're going to be relaxing. Why? So that there's a space for this energy to grow. And so there is also a space for that turn on, for that pleasure to move beyond the genitals and especially up to our heart and then to our third eye and really circulate all over our body, right? That's why full body experience. And we are going to relax into it. And what's so beautiful about it is that there is not so much of a climax and a peak. It's not
A steady
Yeah, it's
flow
more
of pleasure.
oceanic. It's longer. Instead of just 10 seconds, it's more of a state that you come into. I like to say that instead of having an orgasm, we're going to become orgasmic. And it's a state where you're really fully present, where you're relaxed, where you're open, when you're not chasing, grasping, and thinking what you're going to do next. Instead, there is just that full body bliss experience that is really, again, nourishing, inspiring, and energizing.
I have a few things that come up for me. Number one, I understand how you can create the space coming in with intention and all the steps that you mentioned prior, where you can create that space for self-pleasure. Number one is, where does a partner, how do we incorporate a partner in there? Because for yourself, you can get into that space, but then when you have another, factor, how do you bring that together?
No, and Valeria, I'm so glad you asked this question, because this is one of the questions that I get asked the most by women. Okay. So first of all, I always say that you want to start with yourself, because even if your partner might be right now a little bit reluctant or skeptical, don't take it as a reason to
Not explore.
Exactly, not explore. Start exploring with yourself. Because when you actually become more aware of your body, more connected to your own pleasure, you're going to start becoming more confident. You're going to start becoming more playful. You're going to initiate more. You're going to ask for what you want. And your partner is going to notice the difference. And what so often happens in the partnerships that my clients are in, that they partners notice the difference and just say, I just really love what's happening here. I love your newfound confidence. I love that playfulness. I want to be part of it. I want to know what you're doing. How can I get involved? So we really have this beautiful gift that we often don't own. We can be that priestess. We can bring that feminine gift to our partners of inviting and inspiring them to step into this world. So don't blame, don't force, don't complain, but rather lead by example. And I love this saying that a rising tide lifts all the boats. Right? And I know that sometimes it may feel really frustrating, and that you might feel a little bit lonely in that journey. Why am I supposed to do it myself? Why it's always me, not my partner? Why do I always have to be the one leading the way? All kind of things that might come up. Trust me, the reward of being that person that opens up this door, the fulfillment of being that intimacy amplifier, being that priestess, of being that person that opened the door for your partner and inspired them, is just so beautiful and so powerful that it's definitely going to make up for that. Now, another thing, with your partners, bring solutions, not problems. So again, instead of complaining, invite them. And it can look in different ways, apart from what I just shared. You can, to all the ladies listening to the podcast, you can say, hey, I just listened to this podcast today, and it seems like there is so much more to intimacy that we are currently experiencing, and there's all these different type of orgasmic experiences I would love to be able to have with you, because you also want to tell them what's in it for them. Would you be open to listen to that? Would you be open to see if we can start exploring that? So make an invitation and even have a third party deliver the message. And it can be a podcast or a book or a little workshop. And like this, you can start planting the seeds.
I love it. And I think, a lot of people talk about the idea of intimacy and sex life in general in long-term relationships. A lot of people get really frustrated.
Oh, yes.
But I actually think that this conversation is so exciting to me, because it shows you that there's so much growth. There's so much out there. And it's even better and more fun, to get into that playful state with someone that you've already established the connection, the trust, you've someone that you love and want to be a part of it. So I think that for married people that have been together for a long time, this is such an amazing, fun adventure to go on.
Absolutely. And there is this misconception that intimate life will get repetitive and boring and maybe not even non-existent after a while, because it will, unless you actually going to do something about it. Like everything else in life, that romantic, intimate connection requires nurturing, requires an effort, requires an investment of time, energy, money, to keep it alive and exciting. And most importantly, you want to learn new things. The intimacy is not just going to be thriving by itself in the long run, right? So what I noticed, and I work with so many couples, I also work with so many sexless marriages. I have couples who have not been intimate for sometimes over 10 years. Wow. And we manage to bring them together. And I think what's so important is to change the idea that you have to recreate the excitement or that effortless attraction that you had at the beginning of the relationship, because people
That's
just come
so
to me saying, oh, how do we recreate that? It's not about that. It's about creating something new and possibly even deeper, even more aware, and exploring things that you've never done before, learning new things, and again, opening yourself up to possibilities that you didn't even know exist. And now that you're older, hopefully more confident, more comfortable in your own body, more confident in asking for you what you want, and just more mature in general, it can become easier in a way. And I just want to give you an example, because this couple has been such an inspiration. The gentleman is 84 and his wife is 70 something. I don't remember, 72 or 74. And they were struggling for 12 years. She was blaming her low libido on the hormones. She did a hormone therapy that didn't help, and somehow finally they found me. And through these new ways of intimacy, approaching the topic of lovemaking, they learned new skills. They learned anatomy of arousal. They started to work with energy. They started to have full body orgasms. They discovered that they are not only sensual, energetic, but also a little bit kinky. And they are having the most rewarding and fulfilling intimate life they ever had. And it's just so beautiful to see. So it's never too late. But guys, you need to get out of the comfort zone, and you need to actually also commit to doing something about it. And we're in such a beautiful space right now, because for the first time in the history, there is access to this information. There is access to these practices. My parents did not have access to any of this. We have access to this right now. So let's take advantage of this.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that couple. I think that it's absolutely so inspiring, because I do think that there is such a stigma to being sexually active and having kind of an adventurous sex life. It feels like it's just reserved when you're younger. Yeah. And once as you get older, it kind of goes away and it doesn't become a priority. So I love the fact that this couple came to you, looking to reignite that fire. So beautiful. In terms of even us having access to this information, you mentioned how our parents didn't have that. And we both come from like the Eastern European, culture. And, while you were saying it, I was thinking, if I've ever noticed anything in my mom, in her female energy, that I felt that wasn't like fully explored. And I still have to think about it. But have you, like, now that you know all that you know, and how like a woman feels when she's fully in her power, can you recognize in your childhood how certain figures, if it's your mother or, people you grew up with, felt like they...
I would
didn't
say,
get there?
I would say, and definitely through the conversations that I then had later on in life with my mom, she was definitely not fully expressed when it comes to that. And it was just really, kind of sad to hear how little they knew, how often, again, pleasure was performed because there was this idea that you just have to give it to a partner, otherwise he's gonna go and look for it somewhere else. And it was quite revealing to have these conversations with my parents at a later age. But when I look at that, yes, I would say I didn't really remember any female figure in my life, in my childhood, that would strike me as like fully expressed and free and wild and fully embodied and just oozing that erotic energy. And, I think especially in the East Europe, of course, it is a generalization, but we are a little bit more cold or reserved, so maybe that contributed to that.
I find that there is sexual power in Eastern Europe. Like, actually, that's what it is. It's used more as power rather than anything else, right? It's kind of like a tool.
Yeah. It might be, and especially that there's like an opinion of a good-looking East European women and et cetera, et cetera. But I think, sadly, sexuality is used for manipulation, not just in East Europe. It's
Anywhere,
it's used as this anywhere in
Absolutely.
the world. And I think there's a misconception about what does this actually mean as a power, right? Who does it empower and to do what, right? Again, to manipulate, to get what we want out of something, to make someone ours, to make someone dependent on us? Or do we use it as something to empower ourselves, our creativity, our confidence, our aliveness, our erotic expression, our connection with the divine, our intimacy with the partner, right?
I have a really good friend that I think was an example to me what it means to be in your erotic power. She truly moves in the world in such a sensual, sexy way without it being connected to, sexuality, like the physical aspect.
Yes.
And it was so inspiring to me. And that started, it planted the seed of just, oh, this is a different kind of definition of what I was looking at or searching for, trying to understand. It's truly, when you see women like that, it starts connecting you to your, to what's missing on what is inside already that needs that nourishment.
And I think, what's so important, so why don't we touch on this, especially that you are in the world of fashion. And I think there's so much focus on how we look and on all things external. Yet I believe that, we can intuitively feel and perceive when someone is really radiant and magnetic, and it doesn't come from all things external. No matter what amount of makeup you're going to put and how beautiful the clothes, if you're really not radiant and magnetic and alive on the inside, connected to your body, connected to that erotic energy, it's not it's not going to work. So this is why I always invite women to what I call cultivate their inner erotic glow. That's how I like to describe it as. And taking time to connect to your body, taking time to cultivate your erotic energy and play with it and nurture it, just for the sake of aliveness, your full expression, your radiance, your magnetism, and observe how that works, how people are actually going to perceive it. And people are going to turn heads and people are going to be drawn to you. And it's such a beautiful way of tapping into it from the inside, not from the outside. And it really is empowering, because it's not about all the products you have to purchase. It's something we all already have within us, but sadly got buried underneath all kind of conditioning, insecurities, taboos, and limiting beliefs.
So how do we harness that power and energy outside of sexual experiences? And I'm specifically talking about tactics. I know you mentioned obviously the creating that self-pleasure moment for yourself, but is there any other things that you recommend to your clients to do?
Yeah, so really it's the whole lifestyle, right? How can we live a lifestyle that is just conducive to feeling more, to being present more, to connecting to our bodies more, right? So as simple as, are you having enough rest, really? Are you sleeping enough? Are you giving yourself time to relax? Is it even in a form of massage or meditation? What are your practices to cultivate presence, right? Do you have a regular meditation practice? Because it really all translates. How we do anything is how we do everything. How we practice is how we play. And if you are not able to be present, if you are distracted in everyday life, this is how you're going to show up with your partner in bed, right? So that is one part. What kind of food are you eating? Is it a food that is nourishing your body, that is increasing your level of energy, that is increasing your stamina and your libido? Or are you eating processed sugar, drinking alcohol, and eating, crap fast food that does exactly the opposite and really, puts your energy level down, right? Are you moving your body? Or are you just sitting in front of the computer, hinging, in a not optimal body posture 10 hours a day? Because that's not really what facilitates the free energy flow and aliveness, right? Are you exercising? Are you aware of your posture? Are you spending time in nature? Because that is also what really connects us to this life force energy. All these things matter.
Yeah.
So
it's truly a lifestyle.
It's truly a lifestyle. And what I also like to say, that in a lot of those practices, we want to bring spirituality or mindfulness and bring it together with sexuality. So the way you breathe, the way you cultivate presence, your intentions, slowing down, being just present with yourself, with your body, with other partner, cultivating it outside of the bedroom will help you so much to then be more present and more alive and more connected in the bedroom.
Do you think the world is ready for all these awakened women? Because I feel like it's going to be a revolution. Like, I think once women find a way to connect to that power,
I think the word is ready, because it's happening. And as I said, there probably the number of podcasts that I'm invited to, the number of articles, the number of books, the number of retreats and workshops and events that are happening is growing exponentially. And I love, let's say, a possibility, an idea that, Tantra, conscious sexuality is going to become the new yoga, right? If you look at it 50 years ago, what you think that there will be a yoga studio every 3 blocks? Probably not, but it is happening. And I think people are so ready, and people are frustrated with and not happy and not satisfied and not fulfilled with the level and type of intimacy that they are having. And now that it is becoming more popular and more accessible, they will reach out more. So yes,
it's beautiful. You know what, I want to tell you an experience that I had recently. I went to a pottery class, and as I mentioned, I wanted to have you here because I am in the season in my life where I want to explore more of that feminine energy, that that erotic self. So I started being conscious of it, and I started finding moments throughout my day where I can really activate more of my senses, right? Because it's, again, to your point, it's not just in the bedroom, it's with everything that you do. So I go to this pottery class, and you do the wheel and all the things. And it was once I started connecting to what I was doing, it felt like such a sensual experience to just work with your hands. And, there's no expectations. This is something new. And it was so beautiful. And I was telling to the teacher, I'm like, you need to maybe create, a pottery class that have this emphasis on connecting to that sensuality.
Yes, such a beautiful thing. And, adding to the list of practices that we can really do every day is just becoming aware of our senses, right? And becoming, again, slowing down to pause and touch and smell and taste and really become more aware of that sensorial experience, because it's gonna make everything so much more alive and juicy and exciting, really. And it's gonna also bring you to the present moment, because all those sensations are happening in the present moment. And then you can make anything really pleasurable and orgasmic. So another way to cultivate your capacity or to expand your capacity for feeling more pleasure is doing it with everyday activities, like a pottery class, like having your coffee in the morning and be really present with how it smells and tastes. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche and maybe simple, but let's be honest, we are not doing it, right? Even when I was in my corporate life, everyone was just, shoving up their lunch on their desk while responding email and not even being fully aware what people are eating. We are running from one place to another, constantly busy, constantly overworked, and we are not taking those little pauses to really feel, smell, see, touch, and appreciate the beauty and depth of life that is around us. So what a beautiful first step. And I love that you made this pottery class sensual.
Thank you. I agree. I think that now it's more important than ever because it does feel like you wake up and there's all these forces, fighting for your attention. If it's with social media or the world or family or kids, like everything is just trying to rob you away from yourself. And I did reach a point where I was starting to dissociate from my own body because it just felt like so much. So I definitely think that finding those moments, and I have to say, it feels really weird at first. It feels very mechanical because for us, I think as humans, we just assume that these things need to happen naturally. So for us to actually work on being aware and work on building that attention on yourself feels a bit foreign, but I highly recommend it. As the more I practice it, the more naturally it comes and flows. So I really appreciate that. So Bibi, for anyone who is in the beginning of their journey of learning more about themselves, about self-pleasure, about eroticism in general, is there any literature, books, or anything that you would recommend?
Yeah. There are plenty of books, so it's always a little tricky to pick one, but for women, probably at the top of my list is The Anatomy of Women's Arousal by Sherry Winston. What I love about this book is that it really combines not just the anatomy and the physical aspect, but also some esoteric ancient traditions. So it's a beautiful combination, and also gives tips for men as well, for partners. So you can literally show some of the parts of the book to your partner as well. And it's just so well written and so well explained and touches on so many different subjects. So I would probably start with that one.
Beautiful. You said top 3, so I'm waiting for 2 more.
Yeah, that one is also as well. Yeah, also on the top of my list. One of my favorite authors, Diane Richardson, and she has a book called Tantric Orgasm for Women.
Okay.
Okay, and let's pick the third one. Let's go with Urban Tantra by Barbara Carreras.
Okay, lots of homework to do. Bibi, thank you so much for your time. You are such a one of the pioneers in this space, honestly, and it's so amazing to see the amount of content you put out there. You guys should definitely check out Bibi on Instagram. Planet Baby.
Yes, Planet Bibi, because my difficult East European name was so complicated that when I started, I put Planet BIBI, and somehow later, it stayed like that. But
I actually love it. I think we all want to come to your planet. So definitely check it out. And you also provide workshops.
Yeah, I have. So for probably women from all over the world are listening to this. Now, good news is that really we can do so much online. And I have so many, first of all, online courses. But if you're still new to it and you want to feel into it and see how this works, I have a free practice for women called Erotic Glow Activation. So if you go to my Instagram and see the work, if you see the link in bio, you can download it from there. Or you can also go to my website, which is energeticlovemaking.com. And there is also a practice for couples called Soul Connector. So these are free. Feel free to download them and explore and see how you can really plant a first little seed, which doesn't have to be that scary. And yeah, whenever you're ready, there are a lot of beautiful online courses that I offer, and sometimes in-person workshops and retreats all over the world as well.
Amazing, Bibi. I am so excited to continue seeing you spread your knowledge and wisdom and reconnect women to their essence. And I am here for it. I follow you. Wherever you go, I follow you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I want to say how thankful I am that you are using your following and the reach that you have to just bring awareness and open people up to new topics that maybe they have not been exposed to, which is courageous, because this can be, quite controversial or still taboo for so many people. So I just want to honor you for also taking that step. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always remember, you are not alone.